Hello everyone and welcome to Engineering 100. This is James Fredrickson. Today we'll be covering assignment number 10, Company Monthly Totals Plotting. So I'm going to familiarize you just a little bit with the worksheet, and then we'll scoot on with the actual demonstration. So if you look up here, there's some notes that you're going to need to review, and here's a breakdown of points, so you can also take a look at that. You notice that we have some things in red, and then we have some things in blue. The things in blue are for extra credit, so they're not mandatory. The things in red are mandatory. And so we will be going through a demo on some of those. If we look down at the bottom here, we've got a tab that has a single dot and a double dot. Those are for grading purposes, so you don't need to worry about those. You will be creating a chart or a graph that goes on sheet tab 2A. So you'll be placing one here. You'll be placing one on 2B, 2C, and 2D. So you've got a number of those to do. So let me go back and let's take a look at the raw data now. So this spreadsheet has to do with a company, and the company has labor and materials just like most companies do. And if you look over here, it says January. For the month of January, there were 2,050 man hours actual, regular time, and then there were 300 overtime hours. So if you want the total number of man hours, you need to take the contents of this cell and add it to this cell and put the answer here. So you notice right now that we're just displaying a number. So what we would like you to do is we'd like you to create a formula, once again, that adds this number to this number, and then we're going to copy it from here all the way down to here. So let's go ahead and begin. So as everybody knows, a formula always starts off with an equal sign. So I'm going to hit the equals button. I'm going to simply click on the 2050. And I'll put a plus sign in, and I'll click on the 300, and I'll hit the enter button. And I'll click on the cell that I just created. And if you look up here, the formula reads equals B12 plus C12, and now I'll copy it all the way down to the bottom, only covering the text in red. So you should have seen no difference, but in place of the numbers, you now have formulas. Labor actuals, so this is the dollar amount that's associated with the man hours and the overtime man hours. So how do we come up with this? Well, first off, the first thing that we need to know is how much the people get paid per hour, kind of on an average basis, with the loaded information in there also. So let me tell you what loaded is. So loaded takes care of things like insurance and taxes and all this kind of stuff. So if I scroll on up to the screen up here, you're going to see that the loaded hourly pay average is $75 an hour. If you factor in overtime, the overtime rate is going to be $113 an hour, or is it? So I've clicked on the 113. If I look up here, you can actually see that it's $112.50. So Excel is doing its thing again. It's rounding up. So make sure that you're aware of that. Sometimes when you click on a cell, what's being displayed isn't actually the value. So let's go down here and let's create a formula. We're going to do it wrong first, and then we'll do it right. So let me click here for labor actuals. So once again, a formula always starts off with an equal sign. So I'll hit the equals, and then I'll click on the 2,050 hours. And we want to multiply, so I'll go ahead and put the asterisk in. Now I've got the asterisk in. I want regular time hours, which is $75 an hour. So if you look up here now, the formula reads equals B12 asterisk J3. And we want to add that to the overtime hours, so I'm going to put a plus sign. And I'll move down here and I'll click on the 300. And I'll put another asterisk in. And I'll go up here and I'll click on the 113. And then I'll hit the enter button. And I get the correct answer, but look what happens when I copy it. You get nonsense because it started incrementing. And so it says B13 times J4. Well, what's in J4? Well, J4 is this value right here, and that's an error. If we go down a little bit further, you'll see that it says B14 star J5. What's in cell J5? Well, let's take a look. What is in cell J5? It's text. So what we needed to do is we needed to have a couple of values that we actually held constant. So let's go ahead and modify our formula. So I'll click on my original formula that I typed out. I want to hold the contents of J3 and J4 constant. So I need to have a dollar sign that precedes the J and the 3 and a dollar sign that precedes the J and the 4. So I'm going to click right on the J3. And as a lot of you are aware, if you tap the F4 key, it'll automatically put those dollar signs in for you, or you can simply type them out if you'd like. I'm going to use the shortcut key. So I'll click here, and once again I'll tap the F4 key. And then I'm going to move up here and click this little green check mark. And now when I take and I copy these, I should get the correct values. And there we go. So far so good. Let's move on to whether or not something is in budget. So it says labor in budget. So what are we looking at here? So we've got a column here that says labor budget. So this is a number that some boss someplace came up with that says, okay, this is all the money that we're going to allot for this month. And now we need to compare it with actually how much money we spent. So what you want to do is you want to compare the actual labor dollars with the budgeted, and if this number right here is less than or equal to this number, then the labor will be in budget. And we're going to do that for each month. But we want to do it with a formula. Right now you can see that all we have is text in here. So we need to create it with a formula. So what function do you think we would use? I'll give you just a second to think about it. And if some of you said the if function, you are correct. So let's use an if function to put in the correct text. So let's go on up here, and if we look across the tabs that run across the top, we're going to look for formulas. So let's select formulas. And then which one of these do you think that it might be? It's logical, so we'll click on logical. And it's an if statement, so I'll click if. And I'll scoot this box on over here. And so once again, I'm going to be comparing this value with this value. So this value right here needs to be less than or equal to this value. So let's go ahead and begin. So I'm going to click on the 187,485, and I'm going to say if it's less than or equal to this value right here, we need to put in a true statement, and the true statement would be labor in budget. So I'll click my mouse here. I'll type in labor in budget. And what happens if it's over budget? Well, we really can't see right now, so let's go up and take a look here. It says labor in budget right here. The phrases are labor in budget or labor over budget. So I'll click my mouse here, and I'll put labor over budget, and then I'll click the OK button. Now I've got a nice formula in here. You can see the formula up here. It reads equals if, parentheses, E12 is less than or greater than F12. The true statement would be labor in budget. The false statement would be labor over budget. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and copy this all the way from the top, all the way to the bottom. And you've got some similar if statements to create for column J and column M. And make sure that you use the correct text when you create your if statements. And the correct text is up here. It says labor in budget, labor over budget, material in budget, material over budget, TO in budget. So if it's capitalized, make it capitalized. If it's lowercase, make it lowercase. Otherwise, the grader will not count it as correct. The next column we're going to cover is the material budget, and you can see this column is all 250,000s from the top to the bottom. So where did this number come from? If we scroll on up to the top here, we see that it says total budgeted monthly material is $250,000. So what we want to do is we want to transfer the contents of this cell right here down to here, and then we need to copy it. So let's do our transfer. So we'll do it wrong and then we'll do it right. So we'll hit the equals button. We'll go on up here to the top. We will click on the 250,000. So now it says equals G3. We'll hit the enter button. Okay, so far so good until we go ahead and copy it. And then you can see we've made the same mistake that we made before. We didn't make it an absolute cell. So I'm going to click on the formula. I'll move my mouse on up here. I'll click between the G and the 3. I'll tap the F4 key again to add the dollar signs. I'll click the little green check mark. Okay, now we've made it an absolute cell. So now we can take and we can copy it from here all the way down to here. And we get 250,000. The next column you get to do on your own, but I will give you some hints. It says material on budget. So what you want to do is you want to compare the contents of this cell to this cell, and it's going to be a very similar formula and if statement to the one that we used last time. So you guys can do that one on your own. The next column we're going to look at is TO monthly totals actuals. That's this column right here. So this is actually how much money you spent for the month, not how much you budgeted, but how much you spent. So how do we generate this number from our spreadsheet? So we have actual labor, and then we have actual material. So what we want to do is we want to add those two together and copy it from the cell all the way down to here. So I'll click here. Once again, a formula starts off with an equal sign, so I'll hit equals. I'm going to move all the way over here to the left, and I'll click on my labor actuals, which is the contents of cell E12. I'll put a plus sign in. And then I want to look for material actuals, not budgeted material. So I'll click here. I'll hit the enter button. Get the same number. I'll click here and I'm going to copy. So I'll move my big open white cross to the lower right hand corner and get what we call the fill handle, which is represented by a solid little black cross. Click, hold my mouse button down, and I'll drag all the way down to the bottom here. No changes, but you can see I've got formulas in there now. Check up here. The next column is TO monthly totals, in parentheses budget. So we're not doing actuals this time, we're doing how much we budgeted. So in place of this number right here, you need to find how much was budgeted. And I'll give you a hint, but I won't do it for you. So let's look over here. How much was budgeted in labor? Well, here's the number right here. How much was budgeted for materials? So you need to take the contents of this cell, add it to this cell, and put the answer here, and then copy from the top all the way down to the bottom, and you'll get your correct answer. Are the TO monthly totals in budget? So these are TO monthly totals. So once again, you're going to compare this value to this value, and you're going to decide whether the TO is in budget. TO stands for task order, by the way. And so once again, it's going to be a very similar formula using an if statement that I showed you in this column right here. So this is also one that you get to do on your own. Now we're going to scoot to a cumulative total actual. That's this column right here. Cumulative totals, let me explain those first. So if your mom and dad gave you $1 allowance every month, January through December, the first month you would have $1. If you saved it, your cumulative total for February would be $1 for January and $1 for February, so it would be $1 plus $1. So we're going to figure the cumulative total out here. So this first value right here, let's go ahead and click. And this value right here is going to be equal to this value right here. So I can put equals, and I can click on this value right here. That's my cumulative total for January. I didn't have any money before that. However, for February, what I want to do is I want to take this value right here, and I want to add it to this value right here. So we'll create a formula that does that. We'll hit the equals button. We'll click on the value right above it, and we'll put a plus sign in. And we'll move down to the second value here, the 477210. And I'll hit the enter button. We'll enter the formula. And now I've created a formula that I should be able to copy, not from here, but from here, right? If you look up here, it says equals N12 plus K13. So if I copy from here down to here, I should see no changes in the values, and I don't. But now I've got a formula that creates that. And then once again, I'm going to let you do this last one on your own. It says cumulative total budget. So you're going to work it just the same. So this initial value comes from here. So you're going to transfer the value from here to here. And then this value right here will be equal to this value right here plus that value right there. The answer goes there.